Hello, nakita ara? Wala pa. Wait, sa loading. Hello, nakita rin ninyo?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So, atong previous topic gahapon, which is katong about surface water, which is I already discussed this. Di ba we all know that hydrologic cycle happens in when there is precipitation, runoff, then evaporation na itabo. So I also have mentioned atong about sa infiltration sa kuan sa sa tubig. So isa may maka-guess on sa topic na to karon. Which is already mentioned about itong last na discussion na to. Isa may maka-guess. If na infiltration may tabo, unsa din nasa infiltration di ay? Unsa di expected na to makakuan na today? Sa atong lesson for today. The outcome of infiltration. Unsa di ay? Hello, anyone? I know you have already read about this topic. Nakabasa na gid man na topic. Gusto lang ako may balaan yung Freddy na ba mo? Hello? Hello? Dunggan ba ko ninyo? Hello? Anyone? Sa may pasikuan na to, sa topic na to karon about sa infiltration na hitabo. So, na hydrologic cycle. So, ang hydrologic cycle is katong it's about water cycle is actually happening sa akuan. Kung we discuss about surface, saan ba kayo sunod ka?
Groundwater.
Groundwater, sir.
Yes, that's correct. It's a very good answer. So, our topic for today is groundwater. So, what is groundwater, by the way? So, groundwater is the water found underground in the cracks and space in soil. So, sand and rock, it's sorted in and moves slowly through geologic formation of soil. Sand and rocks called aquifers. So, ang sand and rock di ay gitawag siya aquifer. Ano aquifer? An aquifer is an underground layer of earth bearing a permeable rock. Rock fractures or unconsolidated materials, gravel, sand, or silt. Groundwater from aquifers can be extracted using a water well. So, mo na siya. So, based sa mention diri, ang kuan daw, ang rock, ang sand or silt daw, isa daw sa mga things to consider na nganong gi-exist ang groundwater. So, mo na siya dapat timanan ninyo. So, unsa the importance of groundwater? So, first, the drinking water, pinaka-obvious at watanan, groundwater supplies drinking water for 50% of the total population. Pero, most likely, drinking water, we usually, kung sa syudad ka, mention ako before sa bang klase, na ang groundwater, dili na itong ginagamit. Dito na sa kuan, sa lugar na actually kuan sa drinking water yun siya totally. Ginagamit yun na to sa kuan especially sa nawasa bitaw kanang reservoir. So mo to siya. So syudad na to ginagamit. So the percentage irrigation day sa groundwater accounts for a percent of water for irrigation. So, dako is a percentage na gamit sa pagkuan sa atong mga plants. So, kailangan na tog fresh water mong good kay it helps our plants to grow. Kay dili man kailangan bisag unsa kay if kung lahi na tubig imong gikuan kay dili ma-survive ang water kay dili ma-survive ang plants. Of the entire hydrosphere or all of Earth's water, only a small percentage occur underground. Nevertheless, this small percentage, so stored in the rocks or sediments beneath Earth's surface, is vastly quantity when the ocean are excluded and only sources of fresh water are considered. The significance of groundwater becomes more apparent. Without question, groundwater represents the largest reservoir of fresh water that is readily available to humans. So, ang pinakakuan yun, ang ginagamit sa tabo, ang nasa reservoir kuan fresh water. Mo na katong ginastore bitaw nato sa kuan sa nawasa. A part of that, katong rainwater, itong mga kuan, ginastore ginato nato na para kuan. So, it is valued in terms of economics and human well-being is being incalculable. Especially sa tuwa, or if naka sa Iligan City, valuable gid sa tuwa ang kuan, ang water. Di ba? Ang uban gani kay ginakuan pa sila nag-adto pa sila diri para magkuha og tubig, especially sa tuwa pud. Di ba isa sa pinakakuan dakong kuan pud sa tuwa kung naka sa Iligan City isang kuryente. Kaya gagamit og kuan ng hydro diri sa tuwa, which is sa Tibok Agos sa Iligan City bitaw ay sa kuan Tibok Agos na gagamit og kuryente. So mo ni pinahambog sa Iligan. So ano siya, mabutang siya sa economic terms. So dako jud kuan ang gamit ang tubig. So in some areas, however, overuse of this basic resource has caused serious problems, including stream flow depletion, land subsidence, and increased pumping costs. In addition, groundwater contamination resulting from human activities is a real growing threat in many places. So we'll discuss it later about contamination sa water and other human activities nga nung unsay mga abuses na gipambuhat sa tao. So the next, the geologic growth and distribution. So it serves as a erosional agent. So water is isa sa mga agents sa nganong na-erosion. It's also an equalizer of stream flow. So it is a form of storage that sustains streams during period when rain does not fall. So if kung ang most likely sa lugar sa ng mga init na lugar, if wala sila makita na tubig sa surfaces, makuha sa well sa ilalom sa yuta. So people would dig. So mura gini pamaaguhan, isa sa pamaagi if kung walay tubig sa inyong lugar, so magkalot mo, buhat mo well or magbuhat mo pump, kay eventually na water na naka-stock. Pero dili siya ingon na permanent, kuan siya, ma-deplete yung kuan, mahurot siya. So may possibility na mahurot ang tubig sa inyong lugar if permitted yung gamiton. So when rain falls, some of water runs off and some returns to the atmosphere through evaporation transportation. As a reminder, soak into the ground. This last part is primary source of practically all underground. So geologically, underground water is important as erosional agent. So motto, the dissolving action in the garden slowly removes rock, allowing surface depression as known sinkholes to creating subterranean caverns. Groundwater also equalizer of stream. So basically ako na ikuan. So gibalik. So groundwater does a form of storage of sustained stream during periods when rain does not fall. So most likely kana dyan pinaka-importante sa tanan, especially sa lugar na wala dyan kay tubig. Now we've discussed porosity and permeability. So groundwater is one of the most important and widely available resources. Yet, people's perception of surface environment from which it's come from are often unclear and incorrect. So, daghang kay misunderstanding about sa groundwater di ay. So, makuha na ito na siya myth buster bitaw na ito. So, pagtuo bitaw na tinuan sa tao kay inana na which is wrong. So, dapat i-correct na sa science. So, science always there to correct. So, not totally na ma-explain sa science, pero science mo good kay wala siya kuan bitaw foundation sa tanan bitaw no how we would explain things. So the reason is that the underground water is hidden from view except in the caves and mines. The impression of people gain from this subsurface opening are often misleading. In reality, most subsurface environment is not solid at all. Rather, it includes countless tiny pore space between grains of soil and sediments plus narrow joints of fractured bedrock. Unsa di pasabutan ni niya di ay ni one class unsa pasabutan ni niya kuan daw naday mga solid spaces naday mga spaces ang kuan daw ni kuan. So naday spaces between grain and soil and sediment plus narrow joint fracture in the bedrock. So unsa di pasabutan ni niya. So this space add to an immense volume. Groundwater also collects and moves in these tiny openings. So porosity and permeability. So porosity is the percentage of the opening within the given volume of rock. It determines how much water a rock mass can hold. Porosity is a higher sediments that is well sorted. So na siya it will high sorted or lower if sediment is well packed, lower if sediment is well cemented. So di pasabot na niya. So permeability. So the capacity of rock to transmit a fluid. It varies of fluid viscosity, hydrostatic pressure, or size of the openings, and degree of interconnection between the opens. So porosity di it means na how unsa siya ka sorted ang kuan bitaw. So porosity is kana bitong nakay rock na kuan bitaw. Imagine mo nakay rock sa isa ka baso. We just say it is a gravel rock. Mga gravel siya nakakuan. So gravel means mga bato-bato bitaw. So nakakuan. Ang meaning ani ang porosity di ay if kung dagko ang mga bato sa porosity, if dagko siya kanang kuan, dako siya spaces. Dako siya spaces sa kuan. So once ang dako ang spaces niya, di ba? Mabutang mo bato, di mabutang mo tubig, di ba? Porosity niya. So, kung dako yung porosity, dako siya chance na dagan siya masulod na tubig compare sa sand na kanang ga-compact bitaw yang kuan. Ga-compact yang kuan. So, nagets sa inyo ang porosity. So, inani siya. Kung nakay tubig and baso, tubig baso din bato or gravel dira. So, kung imong ibutang ang gravel, what do you think will happen? Mas dagan ang masulod ni mo tubig or gamay ra? Anyone? Sa porosity? Hello? So, mo question ako, if kung nakay kuan, nakoy rock, nakoy gravel, then tubig, then baso, then ibot ang gravel, akong ibutang sa kuan, sa baso, dayon ako ibutang ng tubig. So dako ba ang kuan? Dako ba ang unsa? Daghan ba matubig akong masulod sa kuan sa sa akong baso compare sa kuan, then i-compare na ko sa sand. So asay mas daghan og tubig na rin na adto kung compare sa sand ug sa gravel. So nakoy gravel, inay sand, gibutangan akong tubig pareho ang duha. Then each amount of tubig na parehas ra siya kuan, parehas ra amount og amount na tubig na akong gibutang. Asay mas daghan masulod or daghang masulod lang na tubig. Anyone?
Ang
Hello?
gravel, sir?
Yes, ang gravel actually. Kay daghan dako siya spaces ang kuan, ang gravel. That's why ang gravel mas daghan siya tubig masulod. So imagine nimo sa kuan kung sa kuan sa sand, daghan ba'y tubig masulod ako sa sand kung kuan? Hello? Hello? Daghan ba'y tubig na masulod sa kuan sa sand? Di ba gamay ra?
Compared sa
Kay tungod
gravel, sir, kay kamay ra, sir.
yes, sakto, very good. So mao na siya kuan, mao na porosity sa kuan. So mao na pinaka-importante gid sa fundamental sa about sa groundwater. So think of it na kani ang pinaka-importante na topic sa discussion. So wala na nang uban. Pero kani dyan ang pinaka-importante, porosity and permeability. So permeability also is the capacity of rock to transmit a fluid. It varies with the fluid viscosity, hydrostatic pressure, is the size openings, or the degree of interconnection between openings. So permeability, so ikuan sa nato ning viscosity, kaning viscosity or kuan. So ang permeability di ay is katong amount sa water na mo pass through bitaw. For example, imagine na nakay kanang filter dira. So gamay kung gagmay imong kuan, for example nakaysan, masinay mo kuan, hinay mo na og ang tubig didto kung sa permeability bitaw. Mas hinay iyang flow sa tubig compare sa porosity. Na-get sa ninyo ang permeability. So, ang travel sa tubig since ang iyang structure bitaw sa kuan. Think of it structure. If kung gamay rang spaces sa kuan, ang travel sa fluidity sa tubig kay hinay. So, mao na siya. Mao ang porosity and permeability. So, next na sa discussion kay taas-taas na kaayo. So, sandstone and conglomerate are openly hypermeable because of interconnected porous spaces. So one of the reason ang sandstone and conglomerate are tungod sa kuan niya kay nangwi siya mga bangag na kuan. So dagan siya ma-store na kuan tubig. Permeable pud siya kay tungod kani laging i-mention ako na dagkuan na siya mga bangag-bangag sa kuan. So fractured dense rock, basalt, granite are also permeable. So muni kon. So groundwater flow extremely slow in comparison with turbulent flow of rivers. So the flow velocity of groundwater is commonly range 1 meter per day to 1 meter per year. So only special case such as the flow of water caves doesn't the movement of groundwater approach the velocity of flow moving surface streams. So more times, the four main types of pore spaces: space between minerals grains, and the fractures and solution cavities and vesicles. So the spaces between mineral grains in sands or gravel deposit force in space can constituent from 12 to 45%. In filling the pore spaces by smaller grains reduce porosity. So fractures are also rocks cut by fractures. In some dense rocks, So, example, a granite, fracture constituent and only significant pore spaces. So, solution, cavities on some limestones have high porosity because these rocks is soluble in water forming pits and holes and movements of the water along bedding planes. And joint may be result in solution cavities which may become caves. So, rapid to siya kuan ganun itong vesicular na kuan na mga rock na ng mga solution bitaw na kuan na gakuan sa tubig. Which is humok raman siya na kuan which is na form siya caves. Mo na natin cave system karon. So, vesicles are commonly concentrated near to the top of lava flow and from zone of higher porosity. So, vesicles and fracture have basalt at 30 to 40%. Solution cavities and limestones are 30%. So, kani siya mas taas ang kuanan ni flow sa water bitaw. Makita ninyo kung kuan sa spaces niya. So, kung sa fracture na yung sa granite na nakuan, so wala jud kay maka-flow na tubig na so halos tanan makuan ra sa mga conglomerate na kuan sa mga spaces. So, groundwater distribution. So, zone aeration is area above water table which particular filled with air and particularly filled with water. The water forms in the thin film clinging to grain by surface tension. So basically, mo siya kuan 3D model kuan sa mga processes na hitabo asa nagakuan asa gipadulong ang kuan water. So sa zone aeration and zone saturation. So, zone saturation where all open space between sediments and grain is completely filled with water. So, dili siya na part, most likely sa zone saturation, mo na sa makita niyo sa well na napay mga sagol bitaw na nakuan na anang makita pa niyo ang kuan bitaw. Di ba kini siya lalum na kuan zone saturation pero na siya tubig diri na naka-store na tubig diri. So, ang water table is on the upper surface of the zone of saturation. In general, the water table tends to mimic the surface topography. The water table is at the surface lakes, swamps, and most streams in arid region. Most streams lie above the water table, so they lose much of their water through seepage into the surface. So, one water table. So, either na ma-stuck na siya dira or mugawas na siya dira ang tubig. So, wanang water table. So, ato na siya sa streams, mugawas na siya kay di mo gina siya kanang stagnant ang water sa ang water table sa kanina part. So, ano sa groundwater held within zone of saturation. So, manang groundwater. So, capillary fringe is immediately above the water where the ground is held by surface tension in the spaces between the grain of soil or sediments. So, soil moisture is groundwater held by molecular attraction as a surface film on soil particles used by plants for life for life functions. So capillary fringe, the soil moisture is na sa upper na part. So perch water table produced when impermeable layer, so shale, so occurs within zone iteration if a perch water is table extend to the site of the valley spring and sip occurs. So as I mentioned ganina, if ang tubig na dili siya mag-stagnant lang. If kung mapuno na siya, mato na sa mugawas na siya, mato na sa either sa streams or sa springs, mo na siya. If kung basically kung magulan, mas kusog ang flow sa if kung mapuno siya, Ora siya ano bitaw ang baso yung puno ang baso then niawa siya bitaw. Same ra ana. Ora siya kanang store bitaw na kon. Dili siya stagnant. Also move forward po siya. So as I mentioned ganina, groundwater movement. So najuday kuan movement ng groundwater. Dili siya stagnant as I mentioned ganina. So the movement of the most groundwater is exceedingly slow from pore to pore. So a typical rate is a few centimeters per day. Water moves from areas where the water table is high to zone where the water table is lower. So, mo ni nakita ninyo kung gikan sa lake. So, ang water table, nara siya sa upper na part. Dayon, once na puno na ang water table, mo gawas gid na siya. Especially inani ang ang formation sa land bitaw where siya niawas na bitaw sa so it turns into a spring. So mo na makita niyo bitaw sa mga spring, sa mga bukid. So mo na hitabo bitaw sa so mo na hitabo bitaw if kung sa mga water na kanang sa spring na to makita bitaw ng water na gakuan. Especially nag-ulan, kung nag-ulan mas kusog ang aga sa tubig. Imagine na ninyo. So recharge area where water seeps into the aquifer from the rainfall and snow melt. So moto I mentioned ganina. So ang recharge area is katong part na nagiulanan bitaw. So gitawag siya aquifer if kung ang water na penetrate sa kuan na siya sa underground. So wala siya kuan bitaw, imagine niyo wala siya gi-filter bitaw na tubig na ato sa ilalom. Na. So wala siya i-mention niyo if wala siya nalapsan siya inana. So mo siya tawag recharge area. So sa discharge area is like spring, a stream and lakes. So if kung ang water if kung puno na siya, bugawas gina siya. Hindi siya pwede mag-stagnant. As I mentioned, ganihin na balik ra. So, more dyan ang process sa groundwater. So, di mo dyan malibog na. So, springs and streams and lakes. Bro. So, hydraulic head, the difference between elevation between parts of the water table. Movement of water is not like the surface which flows directly downslope. So we'll not read that. So the underground system is an open system in which water enters by the surface water infiltrating into the ground. So moves through the system by percolating through the pores and space of the rock. So ultimately leaves the system by seeping into the stream or lakes. So if kung water surface padulong siya sa dagat, ang underground water is moagil pud siya sa mga streams sa kuan. So kanang nasa mga ilalom is mosabay ra pud siya sa streams. So most likely the same process ra gid sila. This is underground water. So, spring and stream types. So, what is spring? So, a place where the groundwater flows or seep naturally to the surface. So, nakita ninyo, asa mo siya dapit? Ikuha na ninyo, kanang nasa picture, kanang duha dara, kay wala may forever. So, a spring is a place where water moving underground finds an opening to the land. So surface emerge sometimes as just trickle, maybe only after a rain. Sometimes continuous flow. A spring water can also emerge from heated rock underground, giving rise to hot springs. So which people have found to make their delightful way soaking away their problems. Example of spring kaya nakita ninyo is yung sa lawis, kini siya kaning dagag bato. Then, kaning sa taas, kay sa timuga. And Then kani kay sa Bulwa, Cold Spring, I don't know, wala ba ko kadto diri, pero Cold Spring daw ni siya. Pero Cold Spring po nalawis. Sa kuan daw ni sa Cagayan daw ni sa kaning Bulwa Cold Spring. Pero mas nindot siya po ng kuan no, lawis. Layo ra kay i-compare sa kuan sa Iligan. Kung i-compare mo ang spring sa Iligan ug sa kuan. So, mas nindot jud ang kuan lawis. So, proud jud ba? So, to. Spring between permeable and non-permeable bed. So, permeable means kuan siya, penetratable, and impermeable bed is also opposite siya sa kuan. Spring from vascular basalt. So, makita ninyo. So, spring from cavernous limestone. Mga example sa kuan. Sa limestone na kuan. Spring from a fault line. So, if doon og fault line sa inyo, siguro na chances na init ng tubig na dito magawas. So, geyser. So, a thermal spring that intermittently erupts steam and boiling water. It requires certain conditions for their development. So, a body of hot rock must lie relatively close to the surface. A system of irregular fracture must extend downward from the surface. So, a relatively large of a constant supply of groundwater must be present. So, groundwater is migrating through areas. Recent igneous activities or hot rocks become heated and when discharged to the surface, produce a thermal spring and geyser. So, geyser shown. So, muna yung nakita niyo sa geyser. If kung part sa kanimitong groundwater is maboiled siya, na pressure na may tabo na yung kuhan. Since gamay ramang spaces ani bitaw kaning kuhan, expected na mabutog yun siya. Mana. So, na-sounds, diba? So, most likely, ni kuhan, dili ka na makita sa tuwa, pero ang makita sa tuwa kay mga springs, which is kanang doon sa kuhan. If kung nakaadto mo kuhan, sa ganyan mga hot spring sa kuhan, Kamigin, na spring dito kay since doon man siya kuhan, doon man siya volcano na may mga volcanic activity dito. Most likely, kana po if kuna volcanic activity, if kuna doon mo fault line, init ang kuan, init ang underground niya. So mo na siya, kita ninyo. This was what happened if kung kuan mabuto na siya. So tungod sa pressure niya sa kainit niya. Imagine giinit mo init tubig din dili niyo kanon, dili niyo abrihan, mabuto siya. So kanini buto lang siya kay tungod sa pressure niya. Gamay mo kay siya ang kuan gianan niya. Ang gibuto siya. So streams. So it's a body of water with surface water flowing within the bed and banks of the channel. So the flow of stream is controlled by three inputs: surface water, subsurface water, and groundwater. So depending on its location, certain characteristics. A stream may be referred to a variety of local or regional names. Long, large streams are usually called rivers. So gitawag siya rivers. So mga streams day. So as I mentioned ganina, if kanang sa groundwater, if ang tubig sa groundwater is mapuno na siya, always kini siya magawas as a kuan as a stream. So kani makita ninyo, hindi siya mainom din siya na tubig. Most likely kuan if kung dili mo magkalot og di mo maghimo og well sa inyo so streams ang ginasaligan sa tao, especially dara sa dalipuga. Pwede mo nung anti then naidagang streams dara yun. Usually dara po nangaligo ang mga tao. So isa ra po ni sa ginasaligan sa mga tao pod ang streams. Kaya dili lang limpyo, bugnaw pod siya. So pwede niyo madala sa balay if kung for example hiker mo or mountaineers mo, makita mo ginani na kuan which is came niya siya sa underground water. Actually limpyo gini siya compare sa makita ninyo dira sa inyo alang. Mas limpyo bagali niya sa kanang kuan na kanang sa nawasan na tubig kay wala ni sagol na chemicals. So two types of streams. So gaining streams and losing streams. So kuan no explainable kuan na siya. Self-explanatory na picture niya. Kung losing streams kay mo ay ang tubig kay mo kuan. If kung ang gaining streams kay musaka ang kuan. So mo nag-mention ako ganina, if mapuno ang tubig musaka ang water table niya. So if ang losing stream is ang water table niya mo pa kuan mo siya downwards kay. So ano siya explains everything here sa kuan. So gaining stream gain water from inflow of underground water through the stream bed. Elevation of water table must be the higher than elevation of the surface of the stream. Losing stream that lose water to the ground, system by outflows through stream bed. So the elevation of water table is lower than elevation of the surface of the stream. So aquifers and wells. So aquifer is body of rock or sediment that holds underground. So underground is the word used to describe precipitation that has infiltrated the soil, the surface, and collected empty space underground. So the currents of water requires. So artesian water confined as an aquifer between impermeable and beds. It is under pressure, like water in a pipe, where all fracture intersects it and the aquifer water rises in the opening, producing a flowing well or artesian spring. So the currents of water requires the rock sequence must contain interbedded permeable and impermeable strata and sandstone shale. So permeable beds are called aquifers. So the rock must be tilted and exposed to the elevated area where the water can infiltrate into aquifer. Sufficient precipitation and surface drainage must occur in outcrop area to keep aquifer filled. So impermeable layers that hinder or prevent water movement underneath aquifers clay is a good example. If water is withdrawn faster than it can be replenished, then cone of preparation continues to grow and will ultimately goes dry. As you see sa picture na ninakuan, yung sa kuan, uh, recharge aquifer to kuan, non-flowing well, flowing well, and non-flowing well, artesian pressure. So, wala siya kanang kuan bitaw host bitaw na kuan di kuan. If kung ang tubig is kuan isip sa water siya diri mugawas gina siya permanente always. So hole dogs are dug into the ground, reach the zone saturation in order to access the fluid. So this is what happened also sa well. So ang well is very limited jugig siya. Kung makita ninyo, na some parts of kanang mga well or tawag nito wishing well bitaw na kuan. So if you dug the part of your wishing well, most likely limited rigid ang kuan, limited rigid ang water dira. Makita niyo sa kuan. Na siya possibility na mahurot siya. Mapunan na siya basically if kung mag-ulan. If kung mag-ulan kay madugangan rang water na kay pero kung almost na kanang dry ang season bitaw, most likely mahurot ang tubig. So So the cone of depression, cone is shaped line of water table as it depressed due to the pumping of fluids from a well. So mo ni may tabo if kung if ang for example ang village sige sila gamit sa silang well na possibility na mahurot ang tubig. So that this is what happened if kuan before heavy pumping and after heavy pumping. Mo ni siya nitabo. Makuan makuan ang tubig sa ilalom. So ground erosion. So nakita ninyo sa kuan ground erosion. This is what happened if nahitabo sa ground erosion. Ang caves din gini kuan always think na ang caves kay kanang parang kuan siya kanang nag-storean siya tubig pero kani siya nitabo ni siya basically hinitabo ni siya from longer period of time mo ni siya nahitabo sa groundwater na-erode din na ni siya. So kani siya na part sa kanina kuan nakita niyo sa cave system nato. Kani siya kay puno gini siya tubig actually. Dahil gini dako ni siya na kuan erode lang ni siya kay tungod sa iyang kuan tungod bitaw sa kuan niya composition niya na dissolve ang iyang kuan na dilute iyang kuan towed sa water. So mo ni tabo sa cave system. So dili day ang kuan basta kasi ingon nila na itong wrong bitaw na kuan sakit bitaw na pag-understand sa tao bitaw na kuan if kung naay cave kay underground water na dayon. So kani kay wala siya na-erode bitaw na kuan. Wala siya remnant lang siya sa kuan sa groundwater. So slowly moving water can dissolve in huge quantities of soluble rocks. So limestone, gypsum, and carry it away in solution. It transport and dissolve mineral matter and either discharge it in another parts of hydrologic system or deposit it within the pore space within the rock. So groundwater erosion starts with water percolating through joints, faults, bedding planes, and dissolved insoluble rocks. In time, fractures enlarge from subterranean networks of caves. So water strips through fractures and bedding of limestone. Cavities enlarge the underground stream system established. So valley sinks deeper and deeper underground and establish caves and more collapse and sinks home. So maninitabo. So water seeps through the fractures of bedding of limestone. So cavities are enlarged and underground stream are established. So mo ni nakita niyo. So kung tuuna pa mo ni hitabo sa kuan. Mo ni nakita ninyo. Napa siya kuan tubig sa ilalom. Katong cave na katong nakita nato. Tubig pa siya, puno pa siya tubig. Antod sa nadugay sa tungod sa erosion na hitabo. Nagkailalom katong part sa kuan na-erode na kuan which is ang na-dilute ang tong part sa tong cave ito system ito mo ni nahitabo mo ni nahitabo sa kuan na-erode siya so na forma siya cave so sa other na part na kuan is kato na pong nasa tubig so nagets rin niyo so sa last na kuan mo ni nakita ninyo. Mo ni itong mga cave system ninyo nakita. Kani. Or dako tingala mo dako in caves ni nana. May dako kayo. So sinkhole. So produce when caves flow larger until the roof collapse and crater-like depression result. Solution cavity enlarged to form a solution valley, which continues to grow until soluble rocks is removed completely. So, muna itabo sa sinkholes, kuan, as a part sa Philippines na kuan. So, ibalik ko na to. So, kani, muna yung sa garap na itabo sa sinkhole, which is nasa kuan po, sa foreign na country, which is western countries, especially in America. Ilang pamagi man dito kay sa ikuan kanang gagamit sila groundwater bitaw. Ground system. Then humok po yung yuta once mahumok ang kuan yuta dito. Once mahumok ang kuan yuta is mo dyan may tabo mag-collapse ang kuan. So mo ni siya nahitabo sa Philippines na kuan underwater sinkhole in Romblon, and second picture is Cebu sinkhole. So caves are naturally formed by subterranean open area chamber, a series of commonly produced limestones and by solution activity. So first peak is a Stinking Cave in Ligan City. Wala po kadto ani. So yung hindang second right sa picture is a Hindang Cave in Iligan City also. Wala po kadto ani. Hindi mo kalaagan char. Wala jay chance na makalaag soon malaag diri sunod. And sunod kay kani sa Munugi Cave CDO. I don't know, wala ko kabaloan ni na kung ano ni lugar. So minerally dissolved groundwater can be deposited in a variety of ways. So dripstone, collective term infer underground deposits formed by precipitation from slow percolation and dripping water rich mineral water. So stalactite in ice-shaped deposit dripstone hanging from the roof of the cave. So kani makita niyo yung mani kuan kanang sa taas ana man stalactite. So ang stalagmite opposite siya na siya sa ubos. Then drip curtain is a thin sheet dripstone hanging from the ceiling or wall cave that may follow trace of fracture of ceiling or wall. So Torrentine terraces deposits a calcium carbonate deposited by flowing pools of water in a cave floor or carbonate-rich water discharged along a slope. These deposits, however, are trivial compared to the amount of material deposited in a porous space of rock. Another thing is karst topography. Karst topography, a distinct type of terrain resulting largely from erosion by groundwater characterized by sinkhole, solution valleys, rounded hills, and clumps features produced by groundwater activity. So, iusan na siya, no? So, tower karst is developed by tropical areas where the solution is at the maximum because of abundance of water from heavy rainfall characterized by steep and cone-like hills. So formed in solution soluble rocks such as limestone, dolomite, gypsum, it is characterized by underground drainage system with sinkholes and caves. It will also be documented for more weathering resistant rocks, such as quartzites, given the right conditions. Geode is a rock, geode is a spherical hollow rock and mass within the central cavity lined with mineral crystal. So a formation anemia is formed by groundwater solution activity. So mineral matter, calcite, quartz carried by underground water precipitates along with the wall slowly, forming perfect crystal pointing toward the center of the gravity. So nakita ninyo guys, na siya hollow na part dila siya. So erosion removes the material surrounds the cavity, but the mineral line walls of the cavity are resistant. So geodes remains as a boulder-like remnants left from the weathering and apparent rock materials. In sense, geodes are fossil cavities. So the formation of geode is lava flow occurs due to the volcanic. So roughly spherical hollow siya na kuan is intercavity line with mineral crystals. So start siya sa volcanic flow, then from the gas bubbles. So muna sa vesicular nito na kuan no, nahitabo sa kuan na siya bangag na kuan. Pero sa ang makita niyo bangag na sa sulod. As the lava flows, cools with the gas, bubbles turns into rock. So as the rock cools, the crystals grow and push through gas and water, creating hole. While gas water is being pushed, on the crystal also form the gas and water. So calcium carbonates usually hot spring is a calcium carbonate deposit usually every time from hot spring and geothermal areas. So okay, ano ba to? So advantages of groundwater. So advantages and disadvantages. So advantages is not easily contaminated by the surface water. So quality is stable throughout the year. So zero lower bacteria count available in the most location. So when mainom ka a groundwater, mas safe siya. Pero ang disadvantage niya is so difficult to recover once ma-contaminate siya. So usually contains more minerals, increased operation costs, so more susceptible in long-term contamination in fuel spills. Often high levels on iron, manganese, and salt, subject to saltwater intrusion. So source of contamination can be hidden from sight. So di niyo makita kung mga contaminated siya ang kuan. So environmental problems of groundwater, the stream flow depletion, land subsidence, salt intrusion, increased pumping costs from even deeper supplies and contamination. So I want to explain it to you because kaning kuan na siya, self-explanatory na siya. So problem resulting human activities. So pollution, any concentration of chemical or waste creates local pockets that potentially can contaminate the groundwater reservoir. So leaching process which underground water dissolve transverse level components of rocks are usually downward gradient. So its character strength depends partly in duration of contact between waste and underground infiltrated. So mo na no sa kuan most likely nakita na to sa kuan pinaka best example na ito sa kuan na falls dito na kuan sa tungod sa basura na gilabay Lijongan Falls kato one of pinaka very popular na falls diri sa Iligan. So kato nailishey na kanang tungod sa sig dump sa kuan kay nausab ang color sa tubig sa kuan dito sa Hindang Falls moto. So it's very sad for Iliganons na kita naka-experience nato. So muna siya siguro self-explanatory siya. Okay, since wala na tayo time. So salt enroachment. Kani siya kay from tubig gikan sa kuan from sa gikan sa most likely nitabo ni siya kanang sa daplin sa coastline. Part isa sa part sa kuan ang salt water di ay isa po siya mo dungag sa stock sa water sa kuan. Especially almost sa coastline. If kung naman sa coastline is possibility na dagan siya tubig. So subsidence o muna siya the sinking or settling part of the earth crust with respect to surrounding parts. So ano siya itong humok ang part sa yuta kay na maka-experience mo subsidence. So that's all. Thank you. So wala any questions? If kung wala na, please proceed to your Discord para to answer your activity. So thank you everyone. Hello.
Thank you, sir. God bless you.
Bye, sir.
Bye, sir. Thank you, sir.
Bye.